Hello, everyone. In this lesson, I suggest adding a profile editing page where our users can change their nickname and also enter their real name. You already know how to do much of this, but there will be some new things. Let's get started. The feature is extensive, but not complicated. All right, let's start with the endpoint on the backend. Let's call it update profile. Let's create input.ts. All right, our input will be the following. So we also pass the nickname, already, with known validation, and the name. Okay, we want the name to be no longer than 50 characters. You can add this check to the nickname too, but you already know how it's done, so it's not crucial. Now Zodiac has many useful validation tools. Okay, we've created the input. Let's create the endpoint itself. Index.ts. All right, what do we have here? So here's what we have. The specified input is a mutation allowed only for authorized users. If the user changed their nickname, meaning it's not the same as in the input, we look for an existing user. If there is an existing user, we throw an error. If not, let's move on. And then we update our user through Prisma using the update method. We find the user with our ID and set in the data what we have in the input, namely the nickname and name. Even if the nickname hasn't changed, it's okay. It will just be passed here and won't affect changes in the database. Good. And then such a situation. We still have me in the context, and it would be good to change it in the context since we've actually modified it. And then we return it to the client. On the client, we also get me from the procedure, and in it, we return only the ID and nickname. Here, we theoretically need the same thing. So we could do it like this, but since we already have two places where we return this client user, I suggest we move this to a separate function and replace it accordingly. Okay, let's create this function. We'll place it in the lib folder, in the models file. Let it be one file for now, and everything related to our entities will be stored in it. All right, so it will contain the following. Okay, good. We take our user and return their ID, username, and now name. We will now add the name to the Prisma schema. Good. We created this to client me, and we'll apply it here as well. So, now. This check is no longer needed because it will be used here under the hood. So me is to client me, ktx.me. Reminder, we're doing this so that the client's hashed password and other fields that are only needed by us as developers are not sent to the browser. Fine, to client me, created. Okay, they're complaining about us. Let's import again. All right, good. Created the endpoint. Let's now create this field in Prisma, in our schema. Okay, user has a nickname. Under nickname, let's add name. It will be a string. And we could do, for example, like this and indicate that it can also be null, right? But there's another option. We can say that it is mandatory, but by default, it's an empty string. This will be a bit more convenient to work with because our name is always a string, even if it's empty. Let's do it like this. Though you could do it like that. You can play around with this, and over time, you'll find what's more convenient for you. The difference is not very big. Okay? We added this. this field. Now we need to run the migration. Generate and run. Prisma migrate dev. Add name. Name to user. All right. Now all our users have the name as an empty string. So let's create our page then. Let's go to the front-end folders. Well, let's call it out. Again, this is a big question. Is it authorization or some kind of user thing? But we already understood that folders can be moved as much as needed, so it's not that important. If anything, we can move it later. Edit, profile page, new file, index, tsx. Insert our code. So we forgot to pass our input, oops, our procedure, to the index file in the backend. Now we passed it. Okay. And let's look at the code of this file. We are already using our well-known Vispage wrapper, which is available only to authorized users. Also, we will need our user who is already authorized further in the code. And unfortunately, in our wrapper, this hasn't been thought through yet. We know that there is a me in the context, but it can be either authorized or null. If it's unauthorized, we resort to our old proven hack again. And as you might have guessed, in the next lesson, we'll tweak our Vispage wrapper a bit to avoid this. But for now, let's move on. After all, me enters here exclusively authorized because we have passed the authorization check. All right, moving on. We took trpc.utils. They will come in handy now. Called the update. So we took the update profile mutation and created a form. In the form, we take the current user's nickname and the current user's name. That is, they will already be inserted into the form at the time of its initialization. The validation schema is exactly the same as the backends. On submit, we do the following. We call the update profile mutation with the past values, nickname, and name. And in response, we get update me. Why did we get update me here? Because we returned it here. Here, update me is returned. All right. Returning. Now, where is that page? Edit profile page. Here. Update, it's me. And what's the situation next? We already have a user fetched from the getMe endpoint. And because we received it updated in this endpoint, the getMe endpoint doesn't yet know that the user has been updated. And we have two ways of what we can do. We can invalidate this getMe, which will lead to its refetch. We can specifically refetch it, or we may not do it. After all, we have all the fresh data about this user, and we can use trpc.utils to override the response that was in getMe. For this, we take trpc.utils. Here we write getMe. If anything, here are the hints. All your roots are also visible here. We call the setData method. The first argument contains the parameters that are passed to getMe, but we don't have any parameters in getMe. It has no inputs because we don't have an input.js file here, and we don't pass any input here. And second, in the argument, you need to write the response that getMe should return. Moreover, this thing is smart. It understands that the exact response getMe returns needs to be sent. Let's look at it. It returns me like this in an object. Good. So here, it returned to us. We set in me, updated me. That's all. Our data will also update at this endpoint. Thanks to this, right after changing the nickname, it will be updated in the layout. We have a nickname on the logout button. We'll review this code now, then see its execution in the browser, and everything will become clear. Okay, here we have a success message. We're saying that our profile is updated, and we won't reset the form because, well, why reset it? It already has all the necessary data. We don't need it. All right, so here is the page itself. At the top, it says Edit Profile. Here's a form with two inputs, an alert and a button. Nothing new here. All right, but we also need to create, excuse me. All right, now let's go to libs, routers, and add our path for the Edit Profile router. it will just be /edit profile. Okay. Now we need to add this page to app.tsx. This is the profile route. Edit profile page. Okay. We've added the page. We also need to add this link to our layout so users can access it. Okay, layout. Let's insert it right after add idea. Edit profile. Good. Okay, we've added the page, added the route, inserted it into the layout. Let's go check how it works. Okay, our backend is working, front end is working. Let's go. Yes. Here's the edit profile page. Let's navigate to it, and we can see our nickname. It is already there. It's pre-installed. Let's try changing it to 123. Update profile. You can see the nickname has changed here. Now let's try to set the one we have in the system. We have a user. Update profile. Access denied. Okay, let's revert to our old nickname. And let's add our name, Sergey. Also, I'd like the nickname to be my name, Sergey. All right, here it is. And now, once more, I'd like to draw your attention to how this thing works. Look, if I comment it out now, what happens is that the request is sent, and well, the user gets updated, but our front end doesn't know about it yet. Let's see how it works in this case. For example, Sergey 123. Update profile. They say the profile is updated, and since this is taken from GetMe, it doesn't know about it. But if we refresh the page, a new request to GetMe will be made, and we will get it there. There. And because of this, we replace the data within GetMe. All right, so we've sorted this out. Well, now that we've introduced the name, I suggest also displaying it on the idea page itself, right next to the author in parentheses. So we have Sergey 123. And let's display his real name. To do this, we need to go to the View Idea page and add the following code. Where we have the author, it will now look like this. This was already here. And then, if the author has a name, we will return this name in parentheses with a space. And if there is no name, it will be an empty string, meaning nothing will be added. Okay, the only nuance is we currently do not return a name in the author's endpoint. Let's take a look. This is because we are not requesting it here. So let's request it. We've requested it. And now, where were we? View idea page. Yes. And now, there are no type errors. Let's go take a look. We broke the backend. Let's run it. It seems it broke itself and not us breaking it. Restarting. And yes, we see in parentheses Sergey. Let's go look at the idea of the author whose name is not specified. Well, we see that only the nickname is displayed here. Excellent. So, that's how we added the profile editing feature. Thank you all. Let's move on.